Hello, good afternoon, good evening, bienvenue, wherever you are. Here we are yet again. It's Tuesday, so it must be time to talk rubbish with some guys in America. Joined by Eric, Gene, Jonathan, and Patrick, who is steering his way home from the big city even as we speak. So good evening, no, good afternoon, I think, if you must be. Good afternoon, gents.
Yes, indeed. It is a good afternoon.
So the first thing that caught my eye this week, actually the first thing that I heard about this week was yet another member of the clan has gone through the 107 process, and that's the man driving a car. Can you drive a car and talk about passing the 107 this week at the same time, Patrick?
Yeah, here, let me break out some gum because I'll be chewing gum at the same time. No, yeah, it was good. I took the test, and I will say that by and large the questions are relevant. A lot of airspace questions, you know, how the pattern works at airports. I think it's important for people who are going to be operating near airports and in large cities, whatever else, to know where they can fly, how they can fly, who to talk to, where to find weather, you know, things like that. I think it's relevant. I will say that there are a lot of people that are offering classes, and I've seen classes being offered for as much as like, you know, $2,400, $2,500. That's way too much. You know, I think you need to go out there and look around. If you do want to take one of those classes, I think it's a good idea, but make sure you're not getting gaffed. You know, that would be my advice. But not that hard, not that scary, and really it's a whole new era. If you go out there, you take your test, you get legal, you can go to work. So I'm all thumbs up. Good job, FAA. You guys rock, man.
Does anybody want to quiz him, or should we just let him carry on and not crash?
Oh, Patrick, what are the characteristics of stable air masses?
Oh God, yeah, but it's going to be cool, and it's going to be no, it's going to be, I don't know.
You do realize this is 4v1 here? All four of us are pilots, and he's not.
Well, that's okay. You know, it's going to be like, what was it? Was it stable air? It was going to be cool and, you know, high visibility. I forget. All right, so there you go. You made me look like a dumbass on international TV. That's the first time that's happened, too.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's stop him. Let's help him not crash by ignoring him, which we generally all do anyway. Eric, I heard you had first of all, a bad experience with your Typhoon, which turned into a good experience with your Typhoon H. Maybe you can run us through that.
Yeah, so I decided, you know, I've been flying a DJI 550 that's been highly modified and what have you, but it's getting a little old and it's got a lot of time on it. So I went down the prosumer route and finally pulled the trigger on a nice Typhoon H. Got it in and got a couple flights on it. It actually flies pretty good. Camera's pretty good. It doesn't have as much of a delay on the downlink on the video as I expected, so that's good. And it flew just as good as my my modified DJI, so I didn't have any problems there. So I take it home after that, and as being you know, curious as I am, I tried their Windows graphical user interface. That they say that you can check different parameters. You can actually modify the geofences and the maximum altitudes and all that to allow you to kind of go beyond the default settings. And it did say at one point in the software, oh, look, you have an older firmware. Would you like to update that? So I said, sure. Who doesn't like new firmware, right? So I go on and I download the new firmware through the GUI, puts it on my computer, and I kind of find my way around in their GUI to upload the firmware, and I do that, and you know, the little green bar starts and then stops, and then nothing. It got just to the point where it erased the EEPROM from my Typhoon and stopped and ripped the whole aircraft. Except the camera, the Seago 3 actually still worked. I could get a link with that and get video on the ST16 and mess with that. because that's kind of a separate thing. But the aircraft was completely dead. You turn the button on, no LEDs, no nothing. So there I was with a $1,200 doorstop after I got 2 flights on.
Problem.
Yeah, what it is, just to fast forward to the end, I sent an email to Unique USA, who a buddy of mine, Sean Malin, is actually starting to work with over there. And I expect, this was Saturday afternoon. I wasn't expecting much out of them, but lo and behold, about 2 hours later, I get a guy from one of their message from one of their reps, and he has a nice brand new firmware file for me that's made specifically for the Windows GUI. Loaded right up, and voila, the bird's alive. And then I did the normal update path through the SD card to the camera and ST16 and all that. And so now it's all current and good to go. So yeah, 2-hour response time on a weekend for a major manufacturer, that's pretty good in my book. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Must admit, I've heard what the UK dealers are like, and they're pretty cool as well, it seems. They're sorting stuff out. So they seem to have that service side of it, or they're trying anyway, to get that service side working, and it's working.
Yeah, one of the I did go to a forum, uniquepilots.com, whatever, and this is actually a problem that was identified as early as May, and found some guys had the same problem, so I emailed them, but actually Unique USA got back to me before one guy in Ireland, he had the same problem in Unique UK had sent him the same kind of firmware and instructions to fix his bird too. But that's the one thing I don't understand. If this has been going on since May, how come the GUI hasn't been fixed? What it'll do is it'll allow you to load a .bin file rather than the .unique file, and that .bin file is what corrupts the EEPROM and you die.
Okay, Patrick needs to know that I've muted his audio because it's just stamping all over the rest of us. So you're muted, so you can scream and shout as much as you like, Patrick, and we're not hearing you, which I think is a positive for the net positive for the rest of us.
It's very peaceful.
Yeah, we've agreed, haven't we? We've had a vote. We've heard your vote, Patrick, and we've ignored it. Well, that's good news all the way around. And Gene, we posted a thing. In fact, let's get the picture up on here right now. We posted a little thing just today, which was one of your airframes. Is that up or is that not up? Let's see. There we go. One of your airframes managing 400 kilometers. Maybe you can run us through that.
Yeah, imagine that, huh? We've been working with Tim Vincent for a while. He actually broke 300 kilometers with a foam version of this airplane last year, and we decided that we'd asked him to go ahead and well, he actually wanted to move forward and try to bust that 500 kilometer mark. So he got one of our Vigilant C1s, which is the full composite 3-meter wingspan long-range aircraft that we developed, and he developed a method of putting together enough of the cylindrical batteries, not the lithium polymer packs, but the cylindrical lithium-ion packs, so that it would work with our stock setup. This thing was bone stock, no modifications made to it, which is really amazing. He did make one modification in that he didn't use the flaps, which it ended up in the long run not hurting him that much because, like he says, you only use it on takeoff and landing. So, we'll deal with the takeoff and we'll see what happens on the landing. And he got a good day Saturday, launched it, and was sending us continuous reports as he flew. It was pretty cool. He's like, I'm at 80 kilometers and I used, 95. I still have, 95% of my battery. And was reporting telemetry the entire way, and we were routing him on from over here. And 8 hours of looking up.
Yeah.
That's I've done 5 hours when I was flying the Superbat. I did 5 hours watching it, spin around in circles in the Texas sun. And after my retinas peeled off the back of my eyeballs, we landed, and this guy was out there for 8 hours on a nice sunny New Zealand day, flying this thing in circles, a 2-kilometer lap, and he decided he'd bring it in on 5% power because he was using the Brand X autopilot. What is it? It begins with a P. Oh yeah, Pixar.
Yeah.
And with no flaps, the thing got into ground effect, and it just stayed there at 5 feet all the way down the strip. And he figured, well, I better go around. So he tried to make a go around. And when he came back around, he finally depleted that last 5%, kind of bunked it in on the nose and cracked the dome. But it was, no big deal. So in all, we're tickled to death, 425 kilometers. It gives us the power readings that we needed and we needed to figure out. Because the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut the battery pack down, and we're going to put solar film on top of solar cell film, thin film solar cells, from Alpha Devices on there. They've signed an MOU with us, and we are going to do a solar endurance test here very soon. And it'll probably be, you'll fly around until your eyes bleed and then, land.
Do you think you get enough? Will you get any net power back into the system when it's flying, or will you, or with under solar, or will it be able to fly itself on a sunny day and then have power left for the evening, or how do you think that'll go?
In Texas, with all the thermal activity that we've got, we feel like we're probably going to get, we're going to harvest some power off of it. We've got a circuit that we're going to use that actually replenishes the battery. We're not going to use the simple diode, just dump it straight into the battery and type thing. It's very wasteful. So we've got a smart circuit that will actually take the feed from the cells, and if there's an overage, it will put it back into the battery, and if not, it'll just conserve as much as it can. So we expect that it's going to be a long day of flying if we get it up there and start flying it around. So we're pretty excited about it. So look for that news soon. We expect that based on what we know now, and this is rough calculations, we'll be able to easily take off right at civil sunrise the way we're supposed to, and we should be able to fly until civil sunset.
With quite a bit in spare as well. Should any weather eventualities happen, then that means you have to stay flying for a while longer.
If we have to, there might be some children in the runway or something like that we're just,
Yeah.
Either that, or we're going to take it to far west Texas, and we're going to get in a car, and we're going to drive until the horizon drops off, and we'll just fly in a straight line. Because, flying in the lap, the circle, I think probably knocked off 10% anyway, because you're in a constant turn. So you don't really get the full benefit of the lift of the wing. So we're thinking that, if it had been a straight line, that 500 kilometers would have been there.
No, that's very cool. It's amazing. So how much, you say it's full carbon fiber, how much does that cost?
The aircraft itself? Oh, well, you get the airframe for, you're going to make me look at my website and see how much we get for the dang thing.
No, just make it up. No one's watching.
Okay. It's I don't know, it's about $2,000 for the airframe, I think. So it's not bad.
Do you know, I completely forgot. I meant to say to everybody, bring a dice or a playing card or something like that, and we'll all hit a number, because we need to make up this week's industry target figure. So we need some device for making random numbers. So that can we just add them all up? We should do that. Next time we'll do that. Next time, bring a random number generating device, and we'll forecast a market segment for this week or next week, the week that we do it.
Okay.
Make a note of that. And now, all right then. So that's very cool. Well done on that. It sounds just the job, Gene. And I'll look forward to seeing the solar stuff. I don't know, Eric, have you got any questions for that?
No, that's very interesting. I have looked at that solar film before on a project from a previous employer. We were doing a long endurance heavy lift bird, carry 5 pounds, and it's promising that film. Although I think I talked to them at Exponential this year, and the pricing on that film is still around $5,000 to $10,000 per square foot. So,
Wow.
a full vehicular installation could be pretty expensive because they're still kind of in that onesies and twosies phase of production. But once it gets out there, I think it'll be pretty big for just about any kind of fixed wing.
Mm.
I think, what did they say? Something like $100 a watt?
Yeah, I can't remember what the wattage breakdown was. Because he basically just asked me, well, how big is your wing? And then I says, it's X, and he said, it's going to be pretty much because we're about at 8,000 per square foot right now for as far as the aggregate solution goes on average. But once they start making more of it and it holds up reliable, the price will come down just like anything else, I think.
They're pretty much
speaking of your endurance, kind of talking about flight patterns for testing endurance, because that's one of the things I do all the time now. Is I like to do instead of just a circle, I do an oval. You limit your 90-degree turns or get rid of any 90-degree turns and keep them 45 degrees or less. That helps a lot. Nice long NASCAR legs and things like that. But I like the cross country technique. That's pretty cool, especially if you're staying down the road. You got a good thermal lift going down a highway.
Yeah, that's true. You would, wouldn't you? But you've been testing. Hasn't your airframe? Is that the one behind you? Haven't you reached a milestone recently, Eric?
Yeah, actually, we keep a little bit on our webpage about our marathon bird. What it is, it's a test bed for mean time between failure. Because Firefly 6, it's a wing, but it's complex. It's got a lot of parts in it, so 6 motors and what have you. So we need to for how long each component will last and time frame interval for changes and things like that. So this bird is has just passed lights now, and I've only changed the tilt servo on the front tilt mechanism and one elevon servo. All original motors, speed controls, and the airframe structure. Landing gear actuators are all original. So, and I also track how long this airplane has flown, how the distance flown, and right now we're over 9,000 kilometers flown. And a neat little thing I do is I superimpose that length on a Google Earth, the Earth, and right now that distance flown has reached into Siberia. So the equivalent distance flown is pretty impressive for a single airplane, 300 flights. So, and she's still kicking. We'll get another 100 flights in and out of, I think.
Mm. Then you're going to fit a number for its life. Then you can say, okay, they're good for X hundred hours, or you wait until you get more data.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of getting to the point now that, based on average conditions and users, that we could honestly say 200 flights, and they can amortize the purchase and their cost per hour based on 200 flights pretty reliably, I think, at this point.
Okay. Now, Jonathan, you barely fly or do anything of any use or civility, but I understand you've been drinking hard at an event in San Francisco. No, what's that place called? Las Vegas. That's
I've been drinking. It sounds like you've been drinking, Pete.
Yeah, I know. I wish. Tired, man. So you've been off at Interdrone. What did you learn and discover there?
Yeah, I was being out in that very dry area. I was chugging tons of water. I was actually just going back to. I was going back to thinking of what with Gene and how we're with the manufacturing of aircraft now. This brings up all sorts of interesting discussions with aerodynamics and at some point they're gonna have to update the ACS to kind of get more into the theory of flight and stuff with unmanned aircraft. So, for instance, if you wanted to design long endurance or max range of aircraft, those are two different things based upon two different principles. So, what are you wanting to do? Max range is going to be very different than max. And that actually gets really fun when you actually try to calculate that. So, when I was flight instructing, I used to kind of do that with students. Like, let's actually go out and try to find out what is your max range, what is your max altitude, or at least figure out what components will give you that for purposes of, RPM of the engine. And even with aerodynamic design, if you want to get super efficient, get into like building an aircraft with a canard as opposed to an elevator in the back. That way you're actually generating lift from two different wings as opposed to having one wing going up. And then it's having to overcome the other, the elevator, basically a wing pushing it down. So it's better to have two going up, like the Avanti. Not the Avanti. Was it the Piaggio? That would be, Yeah, and the Piaggio, you actually know, I think it's like 20% of the lift is actually developed from the overall frame of the fuselage of the aircraft. It's a giant wing. So there's a lot of ways you can develop. That would actually be really great for long endurance type of aircraft. If you could do that, very low amount of power would be needed to keep that thing up in the air. But anyways, I was just getting into, I like aerodynamics, if you couldn't tell.
The Piaggio thing crashed, didn't it? There is one of those, and the other thing they use a lot is the route. Is it the Very-Ease, Very-Ease, something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I think.
Huh?
So I was just going to say, because for the aeroplane guys, isn't the trouble with that canard though that you don't get quite so much flare out of it, so you can end up with some. Doesn't it have a few vices in the flying sort of way of things?
Ask John Denver. I mean, I don't know if that was in poor taste or not, but I mean, he crashed his.
Yeah, but that was the fuel cock, wasn't it? Didn't they? I thought that was the builder of the thing had put the fuel cock in an unusual position. So when he went to change the tank, it wasn't where it was supposed to be. That's what I thought that one was. But I could be utterly wrong there.
Yeah.
Say again?
Well, he lost airspeed. He lost the motor, lost airspeed, and it didn't fare well after that. There's controllability issues with canard when you get down to low speeds, and that's what happened to more than anything else.
Yeah,
and that's why, getting off into I'm like Jonathan. I mean, the nuts and bolts of aerodynamics and the endurance versus the range. And you have to do the speed and the drag and all that good stuff. It's really fascinating things to do. That's what we've done. I did with the Spectra because I just wanted it to float, and everybody out there has discovered that going fast with an unmanned aircraft and trying to take pictures is not a good thing.
No, I get that a lot too, Gene. I get customers to say, well, how long can it fly? And I says, well, okay, well, we're around about 45 minutes or whatever. And but the real question is, what do you need to cover? I mean, if we're talking about a mapping platform, it doesn't really matter how long it flies as long as it gets the coverage you need, or if the turnaround is fast enough to get it back in the air and then get your coverage that way. And so, sometimes we're compared to pure multi-rotors where you're talking about 50 to 80 acres of coverage. And then we're compared to fixed wing onlys, which you're talking, maybe up to 1,000 acres, but we're kind of in the middle, and our versatility gets us some things that those two can't by themselves. So, really, my question back to them is always, what coverage do you need?
Yeah. I mean, that's it. And multi-rotors. We in our search and rescue end of it, we've incorporated multi-rotors in the hasty searches because we can throw them up. We can get things done around, very close around where the person was last seen. It's a great tool for that. But you're right. How many acres do you need to cover? What is the amount of coverage that you need? And what sensor do you have in there? And how quickly will it shoot pictures effectively?
Effectively.
Yeah. Effectively is the key word here because, you got to think, if you're up 400 feet and there's any swing at all in that airframe, you got pixel smear at the bottom that people don't even think about. Well, my shutter speed is set at 400. So, at 400, the speed at which it's trying to shoot is well past 400th of a second. And a lot of people don't realize that. And that's why we do really good with the tried and true Panasonic DMC LX2. It's a 10 megapixel camera. It cycles well. It's got good glass, and I can get 1.25 inch resolution on the ground at 400 feet. So, you don't have to have a bazillion megapixels to get a good picture.
No. No, you need a fast camera. If you got a moderate speed 30-knot airplane, you need a fast camera. Our go-to is the A5100 6000 Sony's, the APS-C, and they can trigger as fast as half a second. So they do pretty good at 30 knots, and even in lower, about 200 feet and up, they work pretty good.
Well, all of this is coming to us, isn't it? It's all camera technology is moving our way. So it's all getting better, easier. And unfortunately, in our space, I don't think a lot of really has thought about the aerodynamics and the performance elements of the aircraft. The method here is just bolt the biggest motor you can on it and go as fast as you can generally, and just add weight. If you can find a way of adding weight and drag, just do it, because that's what they do. Although I know you made the point, Eric, that at low Reynolds numbers, drag's not such a big issue and things like that, but people don't fly things that are heavy. I see things flying at.
The number one thing is I just want to add a bigger battery. I'll just put a bigger battery on it, and that'll get what I need. There's a lot of diminishing returns, especially with batteries, and people don't understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Jonathan,
the props and stuff. Yeah, because I mean, I think what was the most shocking was when I first got into the drone sector and I was checking out the props and the motors and everything of drones, and I was like, "What is this?" It just seems like the toy manufacturers ran in and put these little mosquito-sounding engines, and I'm like, motors, and I'm just like, "What the crud is?" We're getting crazy inefficiencies with these these high RPM aircraft. I'm like, motors. I'm like, well, why don't you just go high pitch? And high torque. That would be a far more efficient way to do it. But anyways.
Yeah, the first flying wing that I had that I attempted a speed record at was I used a motor that turned 30,000 RPMs and the prop was only 6 inches. And it sounded like a siren. That's like federal government inefficient right there.
That's what you say. Raven, 13,200 RPM on a 7-inch prop.
Wow, is that what they go at? What I love the most about those things, I was talking to some British Army guys about that. I didn't realize, and especially in the early Ravens and that, there was only like 4 or 5 control frequencies. And when they snap the battery in, if someone else is nearby, it lights up. I couldn't believe that. So
it was very. I started as an instructor in the early Ravens, the Raven A's out in Yuma, and you're right, they had 4 command and control frequency pairs. And that included command and control and video, and we zugged each other all the time because one team just down the road would turn on and they wouldn't, they wouldn't set their frequency right, their channel right, and so they'd zug us, and then down comes our plane and lost link, and until you get everybody sorted out or the distance set, it was a nightmare.
So have I just learned a new term? Is zug a term I have?
Yeah, I was wondering what his term was. I was like, zug.
Yeah, zug.
So that's what we called it. If someone hit our comms and we lost comms, we were zugged.
Zug.
The Tiger Shark guys did that to our video all the time out there in Yuma. They didn't care. They were on the other side of the range, and they just turn on, and then boom, down come our planes.
It's funny enough, that's a really nice little link for. I actually saw a zugging myself this weekend. I saw someone got zugged proper, and that was at, we had a first-person view thing. I made a little podcast. There it is. It's on our SoundCloud thing, which I don't really understand, but it's there. So if you want to listen to that, but quite amazing. Here in a funny little corner of South Africa. 12 guys got together and did their FPV racing, which is just amazing. We're a small countryside area in the middle of nowhere, and it's that popular, and it's all 32-bit controllers and all these other good things. So that was amazing. But I saw someone get zugged. A chap was flying around, flipping, doing most amazing things, and this other guy on the flight line just connected up his video, and that's because he was in the in his goggles. It's flipped, and that was him down, and he was shot down, and that's because he lost his video feed. So thanks for giving me that segue into that. Now I was going to come back to Jonathan again, because we come on, tell us about Interdrone. You said you wanted to talk about Interdrone.
Yeah. Okay, so it was a good show. I believe it was up 30% compared to what it was last year, and so in attendance, it was pretty good. The overall tone of the conference was, everyone was getting their 107 or had received it or waiting to get their temp. So it was kind of like, well, where do we go from here? So what do we do regarding, business contracts, NDAs, non-competes? How do we go about doing insurance, or even thinking about that, setting up an entity to maybe work under? Vetting, there were some discussions briefly about that, just seeing people. It was just an overall, we're past step one. What's step two now? We need to go out and start operating. Waivers, night waivers, beyond visual line of sight waivers, those type of things people were very, very interested in. And so I spoke, I had 2 talks. The first one I did was just basics of flying unmanned aircraft, the legal side of things. And then Gus Calderon and I also did another talk on integrating drones into large corporations, primarily from an enterprise fleet type of standpoint. And we discussed that about the importance of getting waivers and the manuals and integrating your manuals with the waivers for seamless integration. And so there were a pretty good amount of people that were there talking about that, large companies and people we talked to. It just seems like everyone's just ready to go to now step 2, step 3 in the overall kind of drone community.
Do you think it's a big growing up moment?
Yeah, I also think it's a very humbling moment for a lot of people who have no clue what the heck they're doing. So that was probably one big takeaway there. At least I was very thankful. There was a fire chief that he came up to me and just spoke honestly, yeah, we're just admitting that we don't really know what we're doing. We're just going right back to the drawing board and trying to get ConOps on and figure out a plan and where we go from here. And even some of the larger companies were humble enough to admit that they have no clue what they're doing, some of them. And it seems like I've noticed the larger the company, the bigger the battleship to turn. And I think that they're cutting edge. And I'm just dude, you're 2 years ago. The 333 guys that have been operating for 2 years are actually ahead of you. So near term, you might want to just hire these, sub these 333 guys, turn 107 to kind of do some operations, because you guys are not even fully crawling. That's what I've noticed. The bigger the company, that seems to be related to that, mainly because where in the world do you put these large companies? How do you actually some issues there in just the chain of command? Are you going to have full-time guys in your company doing this? Are you going to have some subs here and there? How are you going to vet the subs? And the company, the department in the company, who's going to be controlling that? Is there an aviation department? Is this a pure drone department? Some of the guys that started some of these companies, the programs are the new tech development guys that are kind of drone nerd computer programmer guys. They're not the actual going out in the field guys. So then there's an issue there in struggling. Lots and lots of Indian chiefs all fighting over, for control of what's going on. So I've noticed that's kind of been the major hindrance for the large companies in actually integrating, not the regulations.
Are we going to reach a point quite quickly where the actual hero of the piece, the 107 pilot, is going to be a spotty youth, and he goes out on his push bike and gets the job done with the Phantom 3 or whatever it is, or the Y6 or one of Gene's machines, and the data's sent somewhere else, and the hero work's actually done in India by hundreds of people processing the data? That's where my sense of it is. And then you're right, then you'll need that chain of command in the middle to stitch together all those bits of making sure that the guy goes to the right job, gets it done, and gets the data back. Because they want the data. Really, the data. It's not about the Hero 107 pilot. It's about the data. Forget the pilot and the platform.
Right, but nobody's like talking about how secure this data is, and so that's the one thing.
Oh,
That,
yeah,
you know, some of the people
yeah.
I'm like, some of the people I'm chatting with, I'm like, you should probably never let some of this info ever touch a cloud. It should go straight from the card, and then you drive it to wherever, and then do it on a, you know, think of like Mission Impossible, kind of like completely isolated from the world. You know, nobody's really discussing that. I mean, we're all throwing this junk up in the cloud, and everybody's trying to push their app or whatever. I'm just like, well, how reliable is the security on your servers, and the data that's getting put up there is incredibly valuable for certain locations, especially in the commodities. So if you're wanting to try to make accurate predictions for futures trading, wouldn't it be great if you were a hacker to acquire a bunch of info from Barrick, I don't know, so you could do some gold futures, you know, predictions. That it's like nobody's kind of thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, that's there's opportunities there for vulnerabilities, you know, for utilities that have nuclear power plants and infrastructure there. I'm just like, yeah, guys, you need to be very careful about this. Some been discussions of like, yeah, do you even really want a Chinese aircraft anywhere near those sensitive sites? You know,
Yeah.
do we want a American made custom rig kind of setup, so we don't even have to even think about potential issues there?
But that doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter where the rig's made, does it? Because it could still disappear off the cloud. It doesn't matter at all.
Right. So you have to identify what type of what data would be sensitive, you know, and then start thinking kind of from an architectural standpoint. How do you set this up? What stuff do you screen? And what stuff do you, and then how do you transfer that? Because that becomes very problematic from a larger company standpoint if you're operating across the United States. So for instance, let's say you're operating out of the Southwest. You know, it's kind of similar to like cloud computing, and then you have fog computing, where the fog computing is much more done at a local level, and then some more of the important parts kind of go up higher up to the cloud, but you have a faster turnover and response of what's going on down at the local level. So for certain sensitive pieces of information, you might just have that kept at the local level, and then certain pieces of data going up to a centralized command for purposes of like trend monitoring, for certain types of, you know, mean time between failure for aircraft. That'd be valuable, especially if you're operating like, let's say 300 aircraft across the United States or far more. So then that data, that's not really sensitive. It's, you know, just send it on up. And for monitoring, and then the sensitive stuff you keep down below. And that gets me back into just thinking, just, you know, going from end-to-end encryption, similar to like what they do with like ITAR and stuff like that, just pure end-to-end encryption. And you might want to start thinking about that and only transferring the data on those dedicated, you know, in computers. So
You're really worried about this, aren't you?
Oh, it's definitely coming. It's definitely coming. We do a lot of law enforcement stuff, and it's very important for us to impress upon the agencies that we work with that the cloud is not secure. And anytime you're dealing with imagery that can be used in a court of law, as the counselor was elucidating there, you have to protect it. You have to make sure that you have protocols in place so that you don't compromise any portion of the proceedings, whether it's legal proceedings, developmental, financial. Jonathan hit the nail on the head. It's coming, it's important, and people aren't thinking about it at all.
And does that have a great deal of cost to you to make sure that that's secure?
It's going to be. You're going to have to figure out what your protocols are if you're going to be the custodian of that data. You're going to have to figure out what sort of servers you're going to keep it on, what the access is to it, and what your liability is when you do that.
Okay. So what else did you see there, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, in mowing the lawn, you know, up and down the hallways and stuff, just seeing a lot of the 3D. Actually, it was interesting. 3DR was not there with the booth, or DJI. So I thought that was interesting.
DJI went there.
Be there.
Yeah.
That's.
I saw Unique was there, so I thought that was a little interesting. But
wow. So with 3DR, I think we know why they weren't there. But DJI, that's surprising.
Well, I mean, they also might have such a high market saturation that they might be like, well, why do we need to go there? I don't know. I don't really know what the thinking behind that was. But.
And I'll tell you why it's interesting, because now, obviously people are thinking about how their business is going to start and how it's going to be, because they haven't thought past step one, getting qualified. And perhaps they're realizing now that they are part of joining the grown-ups in aviation, as it were. And that means that I know. There's no such thing. Yeah, all right. No, there are no grown-ups in aviation. You're absolutely right. But what I'm going with that is now this commercial RPA will be more aligned with the established aviation shows and stuff like that, and we'll have a better space in. I don't know what your big names are in America, but for me it would be Farnborough and then Paris, and it's going to sit a lot better. So I'm wondering how many of these shows are going to survive the transition from Toyland, if you will, to grown-up land. At Farnborough, DJI said that was the first major air show they had been to in the world, the first big event they'd been to, and it felt like there was a big area for unmanned aircraft, and it was looking it felt like it was looking up at the established halls, the old stuff, and it happens every 2 years, and it felt like that area was saying, hey, next time we're going to be up there. And it really did feel like that. The established military players were in the halls like they always are, but the civil stuff we're coming. That's what it felt like to me anyway. Sorry, I've ranted a bit, but I think it's a change. It's a change from toy fairs to grown-up things.
Agreed.
It's interesting how you mentioned that the registrations in the U.S., just on the hobby side, I think have surpassed the registrations for manned aircraft in the United States, or at least, if not, it's really close to it.
Yeah, it has.
Well, at Sun and Fun, the last 2 years, they've had some drone stuff there. Not a lot, and that's over in was it Lakeland, Florida, not super far from me. And then at Oshkosh, they've had a drone zone that seems to be a little bit, at least somewhat recognized by individuals. NBAA, National Business Aviation Association, has had some people talking at I'm actually going to be talking on a panel on drones there in Orlando coming up here. AAAE. It's having a UAS conference, so some of the man guys are starting to take notice at what is going on. There are some drone things going on there, and I don't know whether or not it's in regards to the manned guys, not wanting the drone guys to come in, or if there's also some issues there with the unmanned aircraft operators who come from really not an aircraft background, are a little intimidated and don't want to kind of hang out with pilots because they fear it might get exposed or something, or there's maybe a little issue there. I don't know, but that's one thing I've kind of wondered if the 107 is going to turn the flashlight on to kind of let everybody know, who knows aviation, who does not.
Well, at the end of the day, you're going to have loads of grown-up aviation companies that bolt on some 107 pilots, and they're going to want to be showing their wares at the normal shows they go to anyway, as aircraft operators. So they're going to Oshkosh or whatever. And so I think by that very nature, it'll come. But it's definitely an interesting time of change, that's for sure. Now, anyone
different
got any
cultures
more?
Too. When I go to NBAA, it's everybody's a suit and tie. You go to the drone shows, it's the only people in suit and ties are the attorneys, pretty much. Every now and then a few business guys. That's really what it's a completely different clash of the
Cultures.
Cultures, and so that also could be another reason why I don't know how much the unmanned is going into the man. So it's interesting.
But surely it's
something.
I'd like to see Jonathan at an Ag Expo one day.
I'll say again.
I'd like to see Jonathan at an Ag Expo one day. Talk about culture shock.
I have to say that would be good. Yeah.
No, I went to a UAS Precision Ag conference about like 2 years ago, and it wasn't so bad. But the most interesting part of when I went to this workshop out in New Mexico for artists, and it was using drones, and Murmio from DJI was actually there, and it was funny because it's about like 90 to 100 degrees or whatever, and I'm in my suit and tie standing outside, and I love this one guy just like looks at me, he's like, hey, yeah, I don't know whatever image you're trying to do or whatever, but we know you're attorney, that's cool, we'll hire you, yeah, we got that, and you could probably go take your tie, your suit and tie off, your coat, because you're gonna die, you're gonna overheat right now. I was like, okay, but I think it just goes back to ultimately it's the different cultures, business, and then it's kind of like drone community. I don't really know it's just a mixture, a melting pot of all sorts of stuff of, San Francisco, the techie guys, and then you got model aircraft guys and toy guys, and then aviation guys, and then I just need cash and I have a Phantom guys.
You're going to see a big influx, and it's already happened too, is ex-military. Guys that have been Raven operators, Puma operators from downrange, they're going to come in, and they're going to fit right in to this industry because they've got the experience of operational planning. They just need to figure out the airspace on the civvy side.
Yeah, and probably just how the missions change. But yeah, I mean, they've operated them day in, day out, haven't they? So it's been their job, their bread and butter. So I should imagine from an employer's perspective, an ex-military Puma guy would be a really good fixed-wing guy to have around.
Yeah.
Puma? How do you spell Puma? Is that a?
It is a four-letter word.
Oh, sorry. Puma. What do we say? Puma or something like that over there?
Yeah, Puma. Is that what you like? You got Puma operators. Those are the guys that can fly it, and there's like Pumas. Those are the operators. Those are the guys that don't know how to fly.
No. They're obviously the better ones. They're plainly the better ones.
Oh, you got the accent, so you just it's like. They pronounce it slightly different, so it just makes them sound so much intelligent, more intelligent with that British accent or something. Yeah, can I have a tomato, please?
Jaguar.
Jaguar, yes.
Jaguar.
Yes. Jaguar, yes, indeed. Look, right. What else? What else did I see this? I know this.
You might want to check your schedule, and we can figure out where we are in discussing all of these things. Good chap. So,
you're not speaking English by accident.
Are you making fun of me? Are you speaking fun of me? This is my normal accent. I play Monopoly all the time and eat my Planters nuts and stuff.
Must be cricket.
Hey, don't get me started. You mentioned that NASCAR thing. I mean, that is racing drivers for driving for beginners, isn't it? Just turn left. Come on, really? Come on. Anyway, moving on swiftly. I thought it was very cool, and I hadn't. Is this screen sharing? Can you see the mine and inspection drone simulator? I don't know if it's.
Yes.
So that was, of course, there's going to be simulations for grown-up end users that we're all doing now, and I thought it's really clever this lot to get in there first, because no doubt. The maximum amount of training you can do in the classroom, so you avoid that horrible weather and you avoid the horrible restrictions of regulations. You can fly in Class A airspace with a simulator indoors. Game on. So I think we're gonna see a lot more of that. I don't know what. Are we seeing simulation in training for RPA? Are guys seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a player.
And
yeah, my last company, we were working with Simlat, I believe, to get a simulator for the small UAS that we were selling, and it's a little complicated because it's not like the RC simulator where you're basically just flying heads up. You actually have to simulate not just the environment, but you have to simulate the sensor feedback and anything like that, mission planning. So it gets pretty complicated really quick. And the other thing is that very few systems are alike. Everybody has their own GUI for the most part. So for a simulator company to invest the money in creating a simulation that recognizes this guy and then this guy, it's not very always a very good business case.
Mm, But I was mighty impressed seeing that today. What else did I think? You just keep chatting amongst yourselves while I'm finding things to screen share here.
Well, I've thought when I've talked with people about setting up the basics, it's been primarily just go buy some Cheerson CX10s and then fly indoors. And then if you break them, just go try to fix them. You can learn about all the different inside components of a basic aircraft. Well, at least of a multi-rotor that way.
I think it's growing up fast, isn't it? I noticed Sporties this week has rolled out its program as well. I think King's about to go one. So all the grown-up, established players are beginning to join in now, aren't they? Which is quite amazing.
Right. Well, ASA is about to
not their 107s yet because they were like the first couple to get every FAA rating there is.
Yeah, I don't think so, and I was expecting that myself, to be honest.
Oh, now up there in the right-hand corner, that hydrogen fuel cells drone.
Yes.
That's going to be another big one. I predict.
Oh, you reckon?
I think the hydrogen fuel cells are going to come on strong.
Yeah, they certainly will. I don't know what size they are at the moment, and then they don't seem to be rushing though, do they? Because we've been hearing about them for what 2 or 3 years now, and we're not. You'd think they'd all be here by now, wouldn't you? What's holding them up?
Membrane.
Go ahead.
But go ahead. I was going to pull up one that I got this morning that had all the specifications on it, and I've been watching these for a while, and I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think part of the reason is the technology keeps changing so much. Because there's hydrogen based, gaseous based, and then there's the what do they call it, the pellet catalyst based, and so it all depends on, they're trying to get the amps out of them, the watts out of these things, especially for multi-rotor. You need a lot of watts, and then an airplane, a fixed wing, it has to be big enough to carry the weight on wing. So I think some of the reason is that the technology is evolving faster than they can come up with a manufacturable system that works reliably. That's where I'm thinking they're at.
You're getting any of that with that pit.
You don't want one of those to light off on you, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'll almost be that we've alluded already, Gene, to the solar panels that you're going to put on your airplane, and for all practical purposes. With the NCR cells, battery cells you're using, you'll have an aircraft that can fly all daylight hours. So you don't need to then find a modern or exotic new propulsion system. You've done it. You've done what if you can fly civil morning to evening, you're done. You don't need any more endurance. It's
right.
We're at that point where it's getting quite straightforward. What I was going to do with that slide was showing up there. It's the racing quad. I can never work out whether this is showing the slide or not, but they've put a motor on the back as well to make it go even faster.
Yeah.
I just thought, well, okay. But I tell you who it is. It's those X-Craft guys. It's their little side project. So, yeah, I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts about putting that extra motor for propulsion on the back of a multi-rotor. No.
I can't tell by that picture if it's angled or not, because when they're actually racing and moving along, they're pointed about 45-60 degrees at the ground. So is that motor angled like that, or
no? It was just flat on the back. Yeah, you're right. It was just flat on the back.
You like that motor off, and you're only a foot off the ground going under a gate. You like that motor off, you're going straight into the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't. There's no video of compelling speeds. That's what I thought anyway. But I thought it was an interesting modification, and I truly believe that the first-person view racing stuff is bringing on this technology at a huge rate now, just for motor reliability, small speed controllers, all the talking small stuff now. But your inspection drones, they're going to be 150 to 250 class small quads for close-in stuff, because it'll just be reliable, because thousands of people have been racing them. But there again, I'm ranting again. How are you getting on with those pictures, Gene?
I was trying to find the other hydrogen fuel cell thing, but I haven't found it yet. only get a ton of emails in
All
the
right.
morning. So
Let's have a song from Jonathan while we're waiting.
oh,
I'm trying to think of what type of song would you want to hear.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Is anyone? Let's see. I can't think I've got any more slides here. And if I haven't got any more slides, then maybe we should call it a day. Has anyone got anything else they want to talk about?
let's see. One last pass here, real quick. If I don't pick it up. Here it is.
We're like literally watching the Gene.
I didn't say I was going to share it.
So this
It's
is what
good,
it
isn't
feels
it?
like on the other side of like tech support. I'm like, dear sir, please click control panel. Now go to settings. Thank you so much, sir. You know, like, are you still there,
Have
sir? Can you please hold? You know, you know.
Have you tried switching it off and on again?
Yeah, have you?
Yeah. Okay, go look at that. Intelligent Energy is the name. The AC10 stack is
Can
the
you
thing.
screen share it with us on the left-hand side, the second one down on the left?
Okay, stand by one.
Standing by to stand by.
Shut up. Jeez. Okay, left-hand side. Let's see if we can screen share this bad boy. All right.
It's exciting, isn't it? Oh, here we go.
Right
It's a
there.
Hoover. You've shared a Hoover.
Look like a vacuum cleaner.
Vacuum. Sorry. Me and my Englishness. A vacuum.
Is it Hoover around?
No, there you go, right there, though. There's 2.1 watts per cell, and you can have as many as 100 cells in that little guy right there.
And how long will that run for?
Long time.
Long time. And what? So, obviously, that's
Okay, 15 volts. It runs at 15 volts, and I'm just kind of exploring this myself. So, it's one of those things that I like hydrogen, and it's as long as you keep it contained, it works well.
it's no worse than petrol, is it?
But no, it's no worse than, other than the fact that it's highly gaseous and will expand at a rapid rate as compared to petrol. But
Yeah.
This looks like a pretty clean package to me. Nice little setup. It's like 1.7 kilos. And, it's supplies power for a long time. I haven't got any endurance figures on it because it's obviously dependent upon, how much you pull out of it. But good start. I think it's a good start.
So that's after the solar. That's the next on your list, is it?
Right. We'll go hydrogen.
Okay, cool. Well, if you stop
make
sharing that, you just at the top it should say stop sharing up there somewhere. Next time I have a picture from Jonathan.
For what? What do you want a picture of?
Whatever. Yeah, you'll find something. I know you will. You'll find something. Okay, guys. Has anyone got anything else they want to say or talk about?
I'm good. I've said it all. I've made a fool of myself enough.
Good. That's what we do here. Jonathan.
I have
Something-
nothing else to add.
Something profound. Nothing profound. I thought it was going to be profound. Last time you gave us a life lesson last time. I was waiting for the next one.
Yeah, great. I feel like once you kind of set that tone here, it's like every time you talk, you have to be writing like like birthday cards or something like that. So, don't
You
really
need the
have
Hallmark generation machine in front of you or something, and just select it. It's Easter, it's a Friday, it's a whatever, and see what it comes up with. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
that actually I followed up with sent that around after our last talk about that getting your 107 is merely the key unlock in the door to beginning your journey into aviation, not your certificate that you have finally arrived. And I found that really interesting in how people some
Made
people
a lot of
resonated.
friends.
Yeah, some people resonated with that. Some people did not resonate with that. And it was really interesting. Which I don't know. I thought that was interesting. So
yeah, you and your long-standing, you're just jealous of us new guys' way of thinking. Yeah, you made a lot of friends, didn't you? With that, I watched that and chuckled.
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of this. There's a point there where it's like, okay, well, yeah, you guys are new, so you need to at least acknowledge that, and then in the same thought process, we should also go, well, you Part 61ers who have been operating for how long? Just because you took that little 2-hour training course, that really was kind of a joke. And I actually think the 107 guys would probably be even far more qualified than you guys who took this little, right? I'm like, why would you badmouth the 107 guys that are brand new on the street? So I think overall everyone needs to at least be humble and honest with their skills and capabilities and not pose and make themselves out to be more than what they really are. For both sides of the fence.
Yeah, it goes all the way. All right, guys, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday afternoon, evening, nearly Wednesday for me. We'll talk again next Tuesday and see what's come up. Cheers, guys.
Hope we pass the audition.